Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into a world where glittering dewdrops hide thorny secrets, and charming little cottages might just be made of gingerbread, and something far more sinister. Imagine, if you will, the gentle rustle of leaves as you wander off the well-trodden path, lured by a melody only you can hear, or a shimmer of light just beyond the visible. You're not in your cozy bed anymore, safe under the covers. Oh no. Tonight, you're about to experience the brutal reality of getting lost in a fairy tale forest. Forget Hansel and Gretel skipping cheerfully, they probably ended up as main course, because while those stories promise magical creatures and heroic rescues, the truth of being truly, utterly lost in a primordial, unyielding woodland, even one cloaked in enchantment, is less about happily ever afters and more about desperate, grimy survival. You probably wouldn't survive. Not really. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here, and let me know where you're tuning in from, and what time it is for you. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You stumble. It's not a graceful entry. No shimmering portal or swirling mist. One moment, you're on a perfectly normal, if slightly overgrown, hiking trail. The kind with neatly marked trees and the distant hum of traffic. The next, your foot catches on a gnarled root, sending you sprawling. You brace for impact, expecting the familiar crunch of dry leaves, maybe a bit of mud. Instead, your hand lands on something soft, incredibly soft, like moss that's never known a human touch. A strange, sweet scent, not quite floral, not quite earthy, fills your nostrils, almost cloyingly rich, when you push yourself up, brushing imaginary dirt from your clothes. The world around you has shifted. The sunlight, once dappled and ordinary, now filters through the canopy in emerald and gold shafts, impossibly bright and yet somehow dimming the edges of your vision. The trees aren't merely tall, they are colossal, ancient sentinels with trunks wider than your car, their bark twisting into patterns that seem almost to writhe, their leaves, in shades of violet and crimson you've never seen, create a perpetual twilight, even at midday. This isn't just a forest, this is the forest, the kind from the stories, the one whispered about in cautionary tales. A prickle of unease starts at the base of your spine. You turn, expecting to see the path, the familiar mundane world you just left behind. But there's nothing. Just an unbroken wall of vibrant, alien foliage, seemingly impenetrable, no sound of cars, no distant dog bark, just the faint, almost imperceptible hum of the forest itself. A low, resonant thrum that vibrates in your chest. You try to retrace your steps, pushing through a curtain of shimmering vines that feel strangely cool against your skin. Each vine seems to sway with a life of its own, coiling back into place as soon as you pass, leaving no discernible trace of your passage. It's like walking through water that instantly forgets your presence. You try calling out. A tentative hello that feels ridiculously small in this vast ancient space. Your voice is swallowed whole, absorbed by the dense canopy, leaving only an echoing silence that feels heavier than sound. Panic. A cold, sharp claw begins to scratch at the edges of your composure. You tell yourself to breathe, to think. Right. First rule of being lost: don't panic. But that's a rule for a mundane forest, a predictable one. This place feels different. It feels aware. The air is thick with a humidity that clings to your skin, yet it's not unpleasant. In fact, it's almost alluring, promising a deeper comfort if you just surrender to its embrace. A common historical fact about those truly lost in the wilderness, even in less fantastical settings, is that the initial stages are often marked by a strange blend of adrenaline and denial. People often convince themselves they can easily find their way back, leading them to make crucial navigational errors. You, however, feel a burgeoning sense of disorientation that transcends mere bad directions. It's as if the very fabric of reality has shifted, and the compass in your pocket, if you even had one, would simply spin aimlessly here. You decide to choose a direction, any direction, and stick to it. North, you think, or maybe east. The sun is obscured by the impossibly thick canopy, making true cardinal directions impossible to discern. You choose to follow a faint deer trail, hoping it leads somewhere, anywhere. The ground beneath your feet is a spongy carpet of moss and fallen leaves, a vibrant tapestry of greens and golds. Small, bioluminescent mushrooms pulse with a gentle light in the deeper shadows, casting eerie, shifting patterns on the tree trunks. They look like something out of a child's storybook, perhaps the kind that tempts you with their glow just before you realize they're poisonous. The thought flickers through your mind. What if everything here is beautiful, but deadly? It's a fun game of guess the toxic flora when your life depends on it. As you walk, the silence is punctuated only by the occasional rustle of unseen creatures in the undergrowth. Are they small, harmless forest dwellers, or something larger, with teeth and claws, your imagination? Usually a comforting companion, now feels like a traitor, conjuring images of mythical beasts and hungry shadows. You remember stories of people getting lost in ancient European forests, tales of dark magic and vengeful spirits. Historians still debate whether the widespread belief in forest spirits and malevolent entities stemmed from genuine encounters with large predators, or simply from the psychological toll of prolonged isolation and fear in an unfamiliar, overwhelming environment. Here, the line feels exquisitely blurred. You glance behind you, half expecting to see a pair of glowing eyes, or a shadowy figure lurking just beyond the edge of your peripheral vision. Hours bleed into one another. Your initial burst of energy wanes, replaced by a dull ache in your legs and a growing thirst. The air, though humid, offers no relief, and you realize you haven't seen any source of water. No babbling brooks, no shimmering ponds, just the endless, undulating sea of trees. You try to remember the survival tips you once idly scrolled past on social media. Find water, build shelter, make a signal. But here, the very act of moving forward feels like an accomplishment. The trees seem to close in around you, their branches intertwining above, forming a living, breathing roof that keeps the sky a distant, tantalizing memory. A sudden, sharp snap echoes through the stillness. You freeze, heart hammering against your ribs. It sounds close, too close. You strain your ears, trying to identify the source, but the forest offers only its pervasive hum. Was it just a branch falling, or something moving, the unusual or little-known detail about being lost in the truly wild? Untamed forest is that the human ear, accustomed to the cacophony of civilization, often struggles to accurately pinpoint sounds in an environment where echoes and sound distortion are common due to dense foliage and varied terrain. Your urban ears are simply not equipped for this kind of sonic detective work. You curse yourself for not paying more attention during those nature documentaries. You push on, driven by a primal need to keep moving, to find a way out. The colours of the forest, once enchanting, now seem oppressive. The emerald greens feel suffocating, the violet hues too deep, too alien. Every shadow seems to hold a potential threat, and every rustle of leaves makes you jump. You find yourself talking to yourself, muttering reassurances, asking questions you can't answer. Just a little further, you whisper, your voice hoarse. You can do this. But the words feel hollow, swallowed by the immense, indifferent wilderness. The enchanting beauty of the fairy tale has receded, replaced by a grim, exhausting struggle for survival. You're not in a story anymore. You're in a trap, and the forest is the labyrinth, and you are the mouse. A faint glimmer catches your eye. Off to your left, a splash of bright. vibrant red against the deep green undergrowth. Berries. You haven't eaten in hours, and your stomach growls a desperate protest. They look plump, juicy, like something an animated squirrel would be hoarding. Your mind screams caution, don't eat unknown berries, but your body, fueled by instinct and the gnawing emptiness, urges you forward. You remember the old adage, if it's red, it's probably dead. Or, just makes you wish you were. You cautiously approach, eyes darting around, half expecting a tiny, indignant fairy to leap out and scold you for trespassing. The berries are indeed vibrant, almost glowing. They hang in clusters, plump and inviting. The aroma is sweet, almost sickly so. Like overripe fruit left in the sun, you reach out a trembling hand, fingers brushing against their smooth, taut skin. A tiny bead of dew, or perhaps something else, glistens on one of them. You hesitate. The image of a child in a fairy tale, poisoned by a witch's apple, flashing through your mind. It's a classic trope, but often the classics are based on hard-won, often fatal, experience. You stare at the berries, a battle raging within you. Logic screams caution, but instinct, raw and insistent, whispers of nourishment, of energy. Your stomach lets out another pathetic grumble, a convincing argument in itself. You remember a slightly morbid, slightly sarcastic thought from earlier. Guess the toxic flora. This feels like a live-action version of that game. You imagine the tiny, indignant fairy from your fleeting thought, perhaps now a gleeful, wicked sprite, urging you on with an invisible, taunting finger. The very air around the berries seems to shimmer, a subtle distortion that your tired eyes might be imagining. Or perhaps it's the forest itself, playing with your mind. It's a cruel trick, this promise of sustenance in a place designed to starve you. Finally, with a sigh that feels too loud in the oppressive silence, you pull your hand back. Better to starve a little longer than to risk a quick, painful exit. Your grandmother, bless her sensible soul, always said, if in doubt, go without. And while she probably meant it about buying questionable trinkets at a flea market, the sentiment feels applicable here. The faint, sickly sweet aroma of the berries lingers on your fingertips, a tantalizing ghost of what could have been. You push past them, the decision made, a small victory of reason over desperation, but the hunger, instead of subsiding, seems to intensify. A hollow ache that starts in your gut and spreads throughout your entire being. As you continue to walk, the ground begins to subtly change. The soft mossy carpet gives way to a more uneven terrain, strewn with gnarled roots that rise like petrified snakes from the earth. The light, already dim, seems to recede further, as if the very air is thickening with shadow. You notice that the trees are growing closer together, their branches interweaving into a dense, almost impenetrable canopy that allows only slivers of the strange, emerald light to filter through. It's like walking into a perpetual dusk, where every shadow dances and every distant sound is amplified, distorted and menacing. The trees here are even more ancient, their bark craggy and deeply furrowed, looking like the faces of old, weary giants. Some are draped in thick, silvery moss that hangs like tattered shrouds, giving them an almost spectral appearance. You feel a growing sense of claustrophobia. The open expanse of the initial forest has given way to this dense, tangled labyrinth. You try to keep a straight line, but the terrain makes it impossible. You're constantly detouring around massive roots, stepping over fallen, rotting logs, pushing through thickets of thorny bushes whose thorns, you notice with a jolt, are unnervingly long and sharp, tipped with a dark, almost metallic sheen. These aren't your garden variety rose thorns. These are more like miniature daggers. You wonder what kind of creature would evolve such formidable defences. The lack of water is becoming a serious concern. Your mouth is dry, your throat scratchy. You lick your lips, but it offers no relief. Dehydration, you know, is a silent killer, more insidious than hunger. It creeps up on you, clouding your judgment, sapping your strength. You start to scan desperately for any sign of moisture, a glistening rock, a dew-covered leaf, anything. But the air, despite its humidity, feels curiously parched of accessible water. The very ground seems to absorb everything, leaving nothing to collect. You stumble over another root, catching yourself just before you fall. Your knees ache and your muscles burn. Fatigue is setting in, not just the physical kind, but a deep, pervasive weariness that seeps into your bones. Every step is an effort, every breath a conscious act. You glance up, trying to gauge the time, but the canopy is an unchanging ceiling of interwoven branches. It could be midday, or it could be midnight. The thought is disorienting, adding another layer of unreality to your predicament. Suddenly, you catch a faint scent, not the sweet, cloying aroma of the berries, but something earthy, damp, and metallic. You follow it, compelled by a desperate hope. The scent grows stronger, leading you deeper into a particularly dense thicket. You push through a curtain of thorny vines, wincing as they snag at your clothes and scratch your skin. Then, you see it. A small, dark pool, nestled amongst moss-covered rocks. Relief washes over you, so potent it almost brings you to your knees. Water. You scramble forward, eager to quench your agonizing thirst, but as you get closer, a strange sight stops you. The water in the pool isn't clear. It's a murky, reddish-brown, and upon a closer inspection, you realize it's not simply discolored by mud. Tiny, dark particles float within it, and a faint, almost coppery odor rises from its surface. It looks stagnant, more than stagnant. It looks like something has died in it, or perhaps something has bled into it. Your initial relief curdles into disgust. You kneel beside the pool, peering at its surface. A few iridescent flies buzz lazily above it. You dip a cautious finger into the water. It's surprisingly cold, but the texture is thick, almost oily. A common historical fact about explorers and pioneers is their desperate measures for water in unknown territories. Many resorted to drinking from stagnant pools, often with disastrous consequences, leading to severe illness or death. The risk of waterborne diseases, from dysentery to cholera, was a constant, invisible threat. You consider straining it through your shirt, perhaps boiling it if you could start a fire, but the sheer lack of clarity and the unsettling colour fill you with a deep revulsion. This isn't a life-saving oasis, it's a potential death trap. You pull your hand away, wiping it vigorously on your pants, as if the water itself could contaminate you. The metallic smell clings to your skin, making your stomach churn. This forest doesn't just deprive you, it mocks you with false promises. You're left with an even greater sense of hopelessness. The exhaustion, the hunger, the thirst, they're all conspiring against you, wearing down your resolve. You slump against a nearby tree, the rough bark digging into your back, and let out a shaky breath. The silence here is different now. It's not just the absence of urban noise, it's a deep, living silence, punctuated by the almost imperceptible sounds of the forest itself. The soft creak of branches shifting, the whisper of leaves, the faint rustle of something moving in the undergrowth. You strain your ears, trying to discern if the rustling is something small and harmless, like a foraging rodent, or something larger, something that might view you as a potential meal. Your imagination, already working overtime, conjures images of creatures with glowing eyes and razor teeth. Historians still debate whether the ancient folklore surrounding forest monsters and mythical beasts was a way for early human societies to explain the dangers of the unknown wilderness, or if it contained kernels of truth, perhaps exaggerated accounts of encounters with now extinct megafauna or large, aggressive predators? Here, in this impossibly ancient forest, the question feels less academic and more terrifyingly immediate. You close your eyes for a moment, just for a moment, to try and regain some composure, but when you open them, the world seems to have shifted again. The shadows have deepened considerably, and the air feels colder. You realise with a jolt that you must have drifted off, even for a few minutes. To how long? Was it enough time for something to approach unseen? You scan your surroundings wildly, heart pounding. The rustling sounds seem closer now, more defined. A flicker of movement catches your eye, a shadow among shadows. You hold your breath, straining to see. It's too dark, too obscured by the dense foliage. You tell yourself it's just the wind, or your exhausted mind playing tricks. But the feeling of being watched is palpable, a cold dread that settles in your stomach. You push yourself to your feet, your muscles screaming in protest. You have to move. Staying in one place feels like inviting disaster. The path, if you can call it that, is now almost invisible. You're simply pushing through a wall of undergrowth, hoping you're going in a direction that leads somewhere, anywhere. Besides, deeper into this green hell, the sheer density of the trees makes it impossible to see more than a few feet in front of you. It's a constant battle against clinging vines and thorny bushes, against the uneven ground and the deceptive shadows. You feel like you're caught in a giant, living spiderweb, each step entangling you further. A thought, grim and unwelcome, surfaces in your mind. This isn't just about surviving, it's about not becoming part of the forest, not ending up as just another decomposed layer feeding the ancient roots. The thought spurs you on, a morbid motivation. You have to get out. You will get out. But as you take another weary step, the forest seems to close around you even tighter, its green embrace becoming a suffocating prison. The silence, broken only by your ragged breathing and the distant, unsettling sounds, seems to mock your futile efforts. You glance down at your hands, rough and scratched from pushing through the undergrowth. A tiny, almost iridescent beetle crawls across your palm. It's unlike any insect you've ever seen. Its shell a shifting mosaic of blues and greens. You try to flick it off, but it clings stubbornly, its tiny legs surprisingly strong. A shiver runs down your spine. Even the insects here are alien, otherworldly. This forest is not just different, it is fundamentally, intrinsically other. It's a beautifully rendered nightmare, and you're trapped inside its vivid, terrifying dream. The beetle, with its shimmering alien shell, finally releases its grip and flits away, disappearing into the emerald gloom. You shiver again, a strange mix of fascination and revulsion. Everything in this forest, from the colossal trees to the smallest insect, seems to hum with an unnatural vitality, an inherent otherness that sets it apart from anything you've ever known. It's like stepping into a tapestry woven by an unknown hand, where every thread is alive and potentially hostile. As you push deeper, the light continues to dwindle, casting the forest in an eternal twilight. The air grows heavy, thick with a scent that reminds you vaguely of damp earth and something else, something ancient and unidentifiable. The silence, which had been punctuated by unsettling rustles, now feels deeper, more profound, almost suffocating. It's the kind of silence that doesn't just lack sound but actively absorbs it, leaving you feeling utterly alone. You whisper your own name, just to hear a human voice, and it sounds thin and fragile, swallowed almost immediately by the vast quiet. Your thirst is a raw, burning sensation now, making your tongue feel thick and unresponsive. You fantasize about water cold, clear, rushing streams, even the tap water back home, anything to quench this unbearable dryness. Your mind, desperate for distraction, starts playing tricks. You see shimmering puddles just beyond the next thicket, only for them to vanish when you get closer, revealed as mere reflections of the dim light on a wet leaf. It's a cruel mirage, repeated endlessly, a psychological torment added to your physical suffering. You even consider the metallic, stagnant pool again. But the memory of its coppery smell and dark, oily surface makes your stomach revolt. The path, which was already tenuous, has now completely vanished. You are simply navigating a dense, thorny wilderness, pushing through a wall of undergrowth that fights your every step. The thorns snag at your clothes, leaving tiny tears, and prick at your skin, drawing small beads of blood that you barely notice anymore. You're beyond caring about superficial wounds. Your only focus is forward, always forward, even if you don't know where forward truly leads. Your legs are heavy, each step a monumental effort. Your muscles ache with a deep, pervasive fatigue that threatens to buckle your knees. You stumble more frequently now, catching yourself on rough tree trunks or collapsing onto the soft, spongy ground before pushing yourself up again. The ground itself is becoming increasingly uneven, riddled with hidden depressions and exposed roots that trip you up without warning. It's a cruel, endless obstacle course designed to wear you down. You notice a peculiar feature about the trees here. Their branches, instead of spreading outwards, often curve downwards, almost touching the ground, forming natural archways and tunnels. It's as if the forest is actively trying to funnel you deeper into its embrace, or perhaps trap you within its leafy confines. You find yourself crawling through some of these natural tunnels, the rough bark scraping against your back, the oppressive weight of the canopy pressing down on you. It's an intimate, claustrophobic experience, forcing you into a primal, animal-like state of movement. As you crawl, you notice something glinting faintly in the dim light beneath one of these natural archways. It's a small, metallic object, half buried in the moss. With a surge of renewed hope, you reach for it, scraping away the damp earth. It's a compass. Old, tarnished, but undeniably a compass. Your heart leaps. A compass, a way out. You try to steady your trembling hand, eager to confirm your direction, but as you lift it, a chilling realization dawns. The needle spins wildly, erratically, refusing to settle. It twirls and dances, pointing north 1 second, then east, then south, then west, as if completely bewildered by some unseen force. It's utterly useless, a cruel joke. This unusual or little-known detail about lost objects in certain natural environments, particularly those with high concentrations of magnetic minerals or unusual geological formations, is that they can render compasses unreliable. However, here, it feels like an active, malicious interference, as if the forest itself is defying all human attempts at navigation. Your last hope for a clear path vanishes, replaced by a fresh wave of despair. You drop the useless instrument, its clatter on the moss unheard in the vast silence. The futility of your efforts settles heavily upon you. You slump against a massive tree trunk, its bark cool and rough against your face. You're exhausted, starved, parched, and completely, utterly lost. The forest, once merely an obstacle, now feels like a sentient entity, actively thwarting your every attempt to escape. You close your eyes, wishing, praying, that this is all a dream, a nightmare from which you will soon awaken in your own bed. But when you open them, the emerald gloom is still there, the ancient trees still loom, and the oppressive silence still presses in. You're not dreaming. This is real, and the reality is far more brutal than any fairy tale. You try to remember stories of heroes lost in enchanted woods, but none of them ever seem to deal with the sheer, grinding exhaustion, the gnawing hunger, or the soul-crushing despair that now threatens to consume you. They always found a magical artifact, or a friendly guide, or a convenient clearing. You have none of that. A strange thought occurs to you, born of exhaustion and disorientation. What if this forest isn't just a place, but a living, breathing being? What if its silence is a listening silence? Its shadows watchful eyes. The idea is absurd, yet in this surreal environment, it doesn't feel entirely impossible. Historians still debate whether the animistic beliefs of ancient cultures, which often attributed sentience to natural phenomena like forests, mountains and rivers, were purely spiritual, or if they arose from a deeper, intuitive understanding of the interconnectedness of ecosystems, misinterpreted through a mythological lens. Here, the line between ancient belief and stark reality blurs into a terrifying, verdant mystery. You try to push yourself up, but your limbs feel like lead. You realize you need to find shelter, or at least a place to rest for a moment, before your body gives out completely. The sun, or what you assume is the sun, has sunk even lower behind the dense canopy, making the light even more muted. Night is coming, and the thought of being here, alone, in this ancient unknown forest, in complete darkness, fills you with a terror more profound than anything you've felt so far. The sounds you heard earlier, the rustles and snaps, will only intensify, and you'll be completely blind to their source. You force yourself to take another step, then another, dragging your feet through the damp undergrowth. The air grows noticeably cooler, and a faint, damp mist begins to rise from the forest floor, clinging to the tree trunks and swirling around your legs. It feels like the forest is breathing, exhaling a cold, damp breath upon you. The moisture feels good against your parched skin, but it offers no relief to your burning throat. You see a faint indentation in the colossal trunk of an ancient tree, a natural hollow that might offer a modicum of shelter. It's not much, just a small, shallow alcove, but it's better than nothing. You crawl towards it, driven by the desperate need to simply stop moving. As you approach, you notice the hollow is lined with a strange, bioluminescent moss, pulsing with a soft, ethereal glow. Is beautiful, in a haunting, otherworldly way, but also deeply unsettling. You recall tales of glowing plants in fairy tales, sometimes a guide, sometimes a lure to something far worse. You collapse into the hollow, leaning your head back against the cool, damp bark. The moss glows around you, casting a soft greenish light that illuminates the rough textures of the tree trunk. The faint hum of the forest seems to grow louder here, a constant, low thrum that vibrates through the very ground. You close your eyes, utterly spent. Sleep beckons, a sweet release from the relentless agony, but a primal part of your mind warns you against it. This isn't a place for peaceful slumber. This is a place where you sleep at your peril, but the fatigue is overwhelming, a heavy cloak pulling you down. You drift, teetering on the edge of consciousness, the strange hum of the forest filling your ears, the alien glow of the moss painting the inside of your eyelids. Sleep, if you can even call it that, is a fractured, terrifying thing. Every creak of the ancient trees, every distant rustle jolts you awake, heart pounding, adrenaline surging. The bioluminescent moss lining your makeshift shelter pulses with an unsettling glow, illuminating shadows that seem to writhe and stretch into monstrous shapes. You swear you see eyes, glinting from the darkness just beyond the hollow, but when you blink, they're gone, replaced by the mundane shapes of leaves and branches. Your mind, starved and exhausted, is clearly playing tricks on you, but that doesn't make the terror any less real. The air inside the hollow is damp and cool, offering little comfort. You shift uncomfortably, your body aching from head to toe. Every muscle screams in protest, and a dull throb pulses behind your eyes. Your thirst is a constant, burning agony, making it almost impossible to swallow. You try to conjure an image of water, any water, to alleviate the dryness, but your mind is too weary, too consumed by the immediate, overwhelming reality of your predicament. As the pre-dawn gloom begins to thin, replaced by the same emerald twilight you experienced yesterday, You force yourself to move, staying in one place, even a seemingly sheltered one, feels like inviting whatever lurks in the shadows to find you. You crawl out of the hollow, pushing yourself to your feet with a groan. The forest is still silent, but it's a watchful silence, the kind that anticipates your next move. You start walking again, if you can call your shuffling gait walking. Your legs feel like lead, and your balance is precarious. You stumble frequently, catching yourself on the tree trunks or sprawling onto the damp moss. The trees still loom around you, their immense forms blotting out the sky. You notice that the bark on some of them is scarred, deeply gouged, as if something large and powerful has clawed at them. A shiver runs down your spine. Then you hear it, a distinct sound, closer than anything you've heard so far. A low, guttural growl, accompanied by a heavy thud. It echoes through the stillness, making the hairs on your arms stand on end. You freeze, every fibre of your being screaming danger. This isn't the rustle of a small animal. This is something large, something predatory. You drop to your hands and knees, instinctively trying to make yourself smaller, less visible. You peer into the dense undergrowth, but the shadows are too deep, too impenetrable. The growl comes again, closer this time, followed by another heavy thud, as if something is dragging itself through the forest floor. You can hear the snapping of twigs, the rustle of leaves getting closer, steadily. Your heart pounds against your ribs, a frantic drumbeat in the terrifying silence. You try to remember every animal documentary you've ever watched, every survival tip, but your mind is a chaotic mess of fear. What kind of creature makes that sound? A bear? A wolf? Something mythical, something unique to this twisted fairy tale wilderness. The thought is terrifying because you have no frame of reference, no established rules for engagement. You know you need to move, to hide, but your body feels paralyzed by fear. The scent of something musky and primal now hangs heavy in the air, a scent you recognize from documentaries as the smell of a predator. Your breath hitches in your throat. This is it. This is where the fairy tale ends, not with a Prince Charming, but with something with teeth and claws. Suddenly, a massive shape looms out of the shadows, no more than 20 feet in front of you. It's colossal, far larger than any wolf or bear you've ever imagined. Its fur is a mottled dark green and brown, blending almost perfectly with the shadows, and its eyes, when they fix on you, glow with an eerie, phosphorescent yellow. They are intelligent, ancient eyes, filled with a primal hunger. Its head is low, and a low growl rumbles in its chest, vibrating through the very ground. This common historical fact about encounters with large, unknown predators in wilderness settings is that the initial shock often triggers the fight, flight, or freeze response. Your body is now firmly in the freeze stage, your muscles locked, your mind screaming for a solution that isn't coming. People often describe a surreal detachment in such moments, as if observing their own impending demise from afar. The creature takes another heavy step, its movements deliberate, unhurried. It knows you're trapped, it knows you're its prey. You can see its teeth now, long and sharp, gleaming faintly in the dim light. Saliva drips from its powerful jaws, pooling on the moss. It's a terrifyingly efficient killing machine, honed by millennia of survival in this ancient, unforgiving forest. A desperate primal scream builds in your throat, but it never escapes. Your voice is lost, strangled by fear. You squeeze your eyes shut, waiting for the inevitable, but it doesn't come. Instead, you hear a different sound, a sharp, piercing shriek that seems to rip through the very fabric of the forest. The creature pauses, its head tilting, those glowing eyes flicking away from you and towards the source of the sound. It lets out another low growl, but this one is different, laced with a hint of irritation, almost annoyance. The shriek comes again, closer this time, followed by a flurry of movement in the distant undergrowth. To your utter astonishment, The massive predator turns, its powerful body pivoting silently, and melts back into the shadows from which it emerged, is gone as quickly as it appeared, leaving you trembling, gasping for breath, soaked in a cold sweat. You open your eyes, half expecting it to still be there, a nightmare waiting to consume you. But there's nothing, only the oppressive silence and the faint, lingering smell of its musk. You lie there for a long time, too terrified to move, too weak to fully process what just happened. What was that shriek? Was it another creature, even more terrifying, that scared off your immediate threat? Or was it some strange, inexplicable intervention of the forest itself? Historians still debate whether reports of guardian spirits or protective forces in indigenous folklore, particularly in dense, uncharted forests, were merely metaphorical, or if they referred to natural phenomena that coincidentally deterred predators, such as unusual geological sounds or the sudden appearance of a larger, dominant animal. Here, the explanation feels far less rational. Slowly, carefully, you push yourself up, your limbs still trembling violently. You can't stay here. Not now. The encounter has shocked you into a new, urgent mode of survival. You are not just lost, you are hunted. And the forest is not just a place of quiet beauty, it is a hunting ground. And you are prey. You force your aching body to move, pushing through the thick undergrowth with renewed, desperate energy. You don't know where you're going, but it has to be away from where that thing was. The images of its glowing eyes and sharp teeth are burned into your memory, a terrifying reminder of the brutal reality of this enchanted nightmare. As you stumble onward, the forest seems to become even denser, the trees even more interwoven. You find yourself navigating through tunnels of tangled branches, crawling over ancient, moss-covered logs that crumble to dust beneath your touch. The light is so dim now that it's almost impossible to distinguish shapes. Relying more on touch and instinct than sight, you're constantly glancing over your shoulder, convinced the creature will reappear. Every snapped twig, every rustle of leaves sends a jolt of terror through you. Your nerves are frayed, stretched to their breaking point. You're no longer thinking clearly. You're simply reacting, moving, driven by a primal, overwhelming need to survive. A new scent reaches you, faint but distinct. Not the metallic smell of the stagnant water, nor the musky scent of the predator. This is different. Something sweet, almost cloying, yet with an underlying bitterness. It reminds you vaguely of something familiar, but you can't quite place it. The scent seems to draw you deeper, a strange, alluring trail in the otherwise hostile environment. The sweet, bitter scent intensifies, pulling you forward like an invisible thread. It's strangely intoxicating, blurring the edges of your panic. You follow it blindly, stumbling through the deepening gloom, hoping it leads to some form of salvation, or at least a temporary reprieve from the relentless pressure of the forest. The air grows heavier, almost syrupy. As you approach the source of the aroma, suddenly, the dense wall of trees parts, revealing a small, almost perfectly circular clearing. It's a jarring contrast to the oppressive density you've been fighting. The ground here is unexpectedly flat, covered in a carpet of what appears to be soft, velvety grass, impossibly green even in the dim light, and in the very centre of the clearing stands a cottage. It's exactly like something from a children's picture book, quaint, with a steeply pitched roof, made of what looks like gingerbread tiles, glistening faintly. The walls are a cheerful yellow, adorned with candy canes serving as decorative pillars, and the windows are made of spun sugar, glittering with a faint internal light. A wisp of sweet summer-smelling smoke curls lazily from its chimney, and the entire structure seems to hum with an inviting warmth. This is the source of the captivating scent, a blend of baked goods, sugar, and something else, something subtly rich and comforting that you can't quite identify. Relief, so profound it makes your knees buckle, washes over you. A house, a human dwelling, salvation. You stumble forward, tears pricking at your eyes, the image of a warm fire and a soft bed filling your mind. This is it, the turning point, the moment the fairy tale finally delivers on its promise of comfort and rescue. But as you get closer, a tiny nagging voice of caution, almost silenced by your desperation, whispers in your mind, this is too perfect, too pristine, too sweet. You remember the berries, how tempting and deceptive they had been. You remember the glowing moss, beautiful but unsettling, and then you remember the stories. Hansel and Gretel! The realization hits you like a physical blow. The gingerbread house, the candy windows, the sickly sweet smell. It's not a haven, it's a trap, a lure. And you, in your hunger and exhaustion, had nearly walked straight into it. Your initial elation twists into a cold knot of dread, a sickening blend of disappointment and terror. You stop dead in your tracks, barely a few feet from the cottage, your breath catching in your throat. The inviting warmth now feels cloying, the sweet scent nauseating. You scan the cottage frantically, searching for any sign of movement, any hint of the potential inhabitant. The spun sugar windows glimmer, but reveal nothing. The smoke from the chimney continues to curl. A silent, almost hypnotic invitation. A common historical fact about folklore and cautionary tales is how often they incorporate elements of common dangers. The witch's house in the woods, often made of tempting but ultimately dangerous materials, served as a powerful allegory for the dangers of venturing too deep into unknown territory and succumbing to temptation. It was a stark warning, particularly for children, about strangers and seemingly easy solutions in perilous environments. You realize now that every element of this forest has been a subtle, insidious reinterpretation of those ancient warnings. You back away slowly, one hesitant step at a time, your eyes glued to the gingerbread house. It still looks idyllic, innocent even, but now you see the subtle menace in its perfection. The silence in the clearing is profound, broken only by the distant, familiar hum of the deeper forest, which now, ironically, feels less threatening than the cottage's silent invitation. As you retreat, you notice something you hadn't seen in your initial, desperate rush, just at the edge of the clearing, partially obscured by a patch of exceptionally vibrant, crimson flowers are faint, uneven depressions in the ground. You get closer, bending down to examine them, their footprints, not animal tracks, but unmistakably human, and they lead directly to the cottage. Many sets of them, some small, some larger, all converging on the deceptively charming dwelling. A fresh wave of terror washes over you. You're not the first to stumble upon this trap. How many others have succumbed to its lure? How many have walked through that candy cane door, never to return? The thought is chilling, confirming your worst fears. This isn't just a place of natural dangers, it's a place of active, malevolent cunning. You turn and scramble away from the clearing, no longer caring about being quiet or stealthy. You push through the undergrowth, heedless of the thorns and roots that snag at your clothes. You just need to be away, far away from that sweet, dangerous facade. The forest, which had been your tormentor, now feels like a lesser evil compared to the deceptive allure of the cottage. You run until your lungs burn and your legs cramp, finally collapsing against a large, moss-covered boulder. Your breath comes in ragged gasps, and your body trembles uncontrollably, not just from exertion, but from the raw, visceral fear that still grips you. You realize that you came dangerously close to a fate far worse than simple starvation or exposure. The sun, what little of it penetrates the canopy, is starting to dip even lower, casting longer, deeper shadows. Night is approaching again, and the thought of another night in this nightmare forest fills you with despair. But at least you're not in that cottage, That's a small victory, a grim consolation. You need to find a new place to rest, somewhere that doesn't feel like a predatory invitation. Your eyes scan the gloom, searching for anything that might offer even a sliver of safety. You notice that the trees in this section of the forest are even older, even more gnarled, their roots forming tangled, impenetrable thickets above ground. Some of them seem to have grown together, fusing their trunks into massive, almost fortress-like structures. You spot an opening beneath one of these fused giants, a small, dark crevice that might offer just enough space to curl up. It's not inviting, not comfortable, but it feels safe in its stark, unadorned reality. No glowing moss, no sweet scents, just rough bark and damp earth. You crawl into the crevice, pulling your knees to your chest, trying to make yourself as small as possible. The darkness swallows you, complete and absolute, a stark contrast to the deceptive light of the clearing. The sounds of the forest begin to intensify as night truly falls. The soft creaks and whispers are replaced by deeper, more guttural sounds. The distant howls of unseen creatures echo through the trees, making the hair on your neck stand on end. You hear rustling sounds, closer this time, and the faint, rhythmic scratching of claws on bark. Whatever is out there, it's active, and it's hunting. You pull your flimsy jacket tighter around you, shivering uncontrollably. The cold seeps into your bones, and the gnawing hunger is a constant, nauseating ache. But even more profound than the physical discomfort is the sheer loneliness. You are utterly alone in this ancient, hostile world, completely at the mercy of its unseen dangers. An unusual or little-known detail about lost persons, particularly in remote and challenging environments, is the phenomenon of circular travel or circling due to disorientation, lack of visible landmarks, and often an unconscious bias towards one side. Individuals will often walk in large, imperceptible circles, believing they are moving in a straight line. This phenomenon, which can be exacerbated by fatigue and mental stress, often leads them back to their starting point or to a previously encountered landmark. You wonder, with a fresh wave of despair, if you've been doing just that, if all your desperate efforts to escape have only led you deeper into the same inescapable loop, returning you, eventually, to that smiling, sinister cottage. The thought is a psychological torment, adding another layer of futility to your desperate struggle. You close your eyes, trying to block out the darkness and the sounds, but your mind races, conjuring images of glowing eyes and sharp teeth from the previous encounter. The creature, was it still out there? Was it watching you, even now? From the inky blackness, the forest seems to press in around you, a living, breathing entity, its vast ancient consciousness aware of your every terrified breath. You curl tighter, trying to become one with the rough bark of your temporary sanctuary, hoping you are too small, too insignificant to be noticed. But a part of you knows, deep down, that in this forest, nothing goes unnoticed for long. Every leaf, every creature, every lost soul is part of its intricate, brutal ecosystem. The cold, relentless dark presses in, a heavy shroud punctuated by the unsettling symphony of the forest. Every distant howl, every unseen scurry, feels magnified, echoing in the confined space of your makeshift crevice. You shiver, not just from the cold that seeps into your bones, but from the raw, unadulterated fear that this ancient, indifferent wilderness will consume you whole. Sleep remains an elusive, dangerous luxury every time your eyes droop. A sharp sound or an imagined shadow jolts you back to a terrifying, wide-eyed wakefulness. Your throat feels like sandpaper, a constant, burning reminder of your desperate thirst. The air, despite its dampness, offers no relief. You begin to fantasize, vividly, about water, not just drinking it, but submerging yourself, letting it wash over you, cleanse you. The image of the metallic, Stagnant pool from earlier flickers in your mind, but you push it away. Better to suffer than to court disease. Yet, the desperation gnaws, growing stronger with every passing minute. You feel your resolve wavering, the line between sensible caution and reckless abandon blurring under the relentless pressure of your body's demands. As the first faint, emerald light of what you assume is dawn begins to filter through the cracks in the canopy, you force yourself out of your cramped, uncomfortable shelter. Your body protests with every movement, muscles screaming from the exertion and lack of rest. You feel weaker than ever, your steps even more tentative, your balance even more precarious. The forest looks the same, an endless, undulating sea of green, but it feels different now, more personal, more actively hostile. You continue to push forward, driven by the sheer, primal will to survive. The memory of the gingerbread house, a deceptive oasis of false hope, is burned into your mind, a cautionary tale against any future comforts this forest might offer. You're on high alert now, every sense strained, every shadow scrutinized. The ground begins to slope gently downwards, a subtle change you welcome, hoping it might lead to a valley, a river, any source of flowing water. As you descend, the air grows thicker, heavier, and a new scent, distinct from the sweet cloying of the gingerbread and the musky odour of the predator, reaches you. It's a damp, earthy smell, mixed with something else, something vaguely familiar, yet deeply unsettling. It's like the smell of a forgotten cellar, or an ancient, unkempt grave. You follow the scent, compelled by a morbid curiosity and the desperate hope that any change in this monotonous landscape might bring relief. The trees here are even more twisted and gnarled, their roots forming dense, interwoven networks above ground. The light barely penetrates, creating a perpetual twilight, and the silence is oppressive, broken only by the drip of unseen moisture from the dense canopy above. Then, through a curtain of thick, hanging moss, you see it. Not a river, not a spring, but something far more macabre. A small, boggy clearing, shrouded in a permanent mist that curls around the bases of the ancient trees. The ground is a treacherous mix of dark, viscous mud and stagnant water, reflecting the dim light in murky, unsettling pools, and scattered amongst the mud and the gnarled roots are bones. Human bones. They are old, bleached white by time and the elements, some half submerged in the boggy water, others clinging precariously to the roots of the trees. Skulls, femurs, ribs, a macabre collection, testament to untold tragedies. This isn't just a bog, it's a graveyard, a final resting place for those who, like you, stumbled into this forest and never found their way out. The bitter, earthy scent now makes horrifying sense. It's the smell of decay, of long-lost lives returning to the earth. A wave of nausea washes over you, mixed with a chilling realization. This forest doesn't just get you lost, it claims you. It reclaims you, bone by bone, returning you to its ancient soil. This common historical fact about wilderness survival, especially in vast, untamed forests or remote boglands, is the terrifying reality of bodies simply disappearing without a trace, while modern search and rescue techniques are advanced. Historically, countless individuals lost their lives to the elements, their remains often never recovered, becoming part of the landscape. Here, the landscape is making that reality horrifyingly explicit. You back away slowly, your stomach churning, your mind reeling. You're not just fighting to find a way out, you're fighting to avoid becoming another set of anonymous bones in this desolate swamp. The sheer brutality of it is overwhelming. The pretty, charming facade of the fairy tale is completely stripped away, revealing the raw, indifferent violence beneath. Suddenly, you hear a sound from deeper within the bog, a low, slurping noise, followed by a faint, wet drag. You freeze, every nerve ending screaming. Is something still alive out there, or is it merely the bog itself? A living, breathing entity, claiming its due. A strange, almost iridescent shimmer catches your eye in the murky water. You strain to see, your vision blurred by exhaustion and fear. It looks like a hand, a pale, disembodied hand, rising slowly from the depths of the bog, its fingers splayed, as if reaching for something. Then it slowly, deliberately, sinks back down, leaving only ripples on the viscous surface. This unusual or little-known detail about certain types of bogs, particularly those with high acidity and low oxygen levels, is their remarkable preservative qualities. Bodies, even after centuries, can be found remarkably intact, a phenomenon that has baffled and fascinated archaeologists. The sight of the hand, however, feels less like a scientific curiosity and more like a ghostly warning. A spectral beckoning from the depths. It's a chilling reminder of the fates of those who came before you, trapped forever in the bog's cold embrace. You turn and scramble away, not caring about the path, not caring about the direction, just away from the bog, away from the bones, away from the eerie, rising hand. You push through the dense undergrowth, branches slapping against your face, thorns tearing at your clothes. You run until your lungs burn and your legs give out, collapsing into a heap against the base of another massive tree. Your breath comes in ragged, desperate gasps. You are utterly spent, mentally and physically. The image of the bones, the rising hand, is burned into your mind, a haunting tableau of inevitable doom. You close your eyes, trying to force the images away, but they persist, vivid and terrifying. Historians still debate whether the ancient fear of bogs and swamps, which permeates folklore across many cultures, was purely a pragmatic response to their physical dangers, treacherous terrain, unknown creatures, disease, or if it had a deeper, almost spiritual root, stemming from the feeling of those places as gateways to the underworld, consuming those who ventured too close in this forest. Surrounded by its malevolent beauty and stark realities, the academic debate feels entirely irrelevant. This place is a gateway, and it wants you. As you lie there, shivering and exhausted, a faint, almost imperceptible sound reaches your ears. A soft, rhythmic tap, 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 like wood on wood. It's distant, barely audible over the hammering of your own heart, but it's distinctly artificial. Not a natural sound of the forest. It's a sound of human endeavour, a sound of hope. You lift your head, straining to hear it again. Tap, tap, tap. Yes, it's real, faint, but undeniably there. It's a sound that promises civilization, rescue, a way out of this green nightmare. But after the gingerbread house, after the phantom berries, after the compass that spun wildly, you're wary. Is this another cruel trick of the forest? Another illusion designed to lead you further astray, deeper into its embrace? Your experience has taught you that hope in this place is often the most dangerous lure of all. Yet, the sound, however faint, however suspicious, is a thread, a single fragile thread in the tapestry of your despair, and a drowning person will grasp at any thread. No matter how flimsy, you force your aching body to stand, turning your head towards the source of the sound, a desperate, hesitant new direction in the endless, treacherous maze. The faint, rhythmic tap, 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 a sound so utterly out of place in this ancient wilderness, acts like a lifeline, a thin, fragile thread pulling you from the depths of despair. It's the sound of purpose, of human industry, a stark contrast to the organic, predatory silence that has been your constant companion. You hesitate for only a moment, the memory of the gingerbread house's deceptive allure still fresh and bitter in your mind. But this sound isn't sweet or inviting, it's rough, persistent, hinting at effort and struggle, qualities that feel far more honest in this brutal environment. You push yourself to your feet, every muscle protesting, every joint aching. Your legs feel like lead, and your vision blurs around the edges from exhaustion and dehydration, but the sound, however faint, provides a desperate surge of energy. You orient yourself towards it, taking slow, deliberate steps, straining your ears to ensure you don't lose it amidst the pervasive hum of the forest. The forest, however, seems to resist your progress, its thorny undergrowth clinging to your clothes, its gnarled roots rising like tripwires in your path. As you draw closer, the tap-tap-tap grows louder, more defined. It sounds like someone hammering or chopping wood. The scent of damp earth and decay, which permeated the bog, begins to recede, replaced by a faint, new odour, wood smoke. It's a smell so intensely comforting, so profoundly human, that tears sting your eyes. You haven't smelled wood smoke since you stumbled into this nightmare, and it's a sensory link to the world you lost. A powerful beacon of hope. The trees here are slightly less dense, allowing a fraction more light to filter through, though it's still the same eerie emerald hue. You push through a final curtain of thick, shimmering vines, and then the forest finally gives way. You find yourself at the edge of a small, dishevelled clearing. In the centre, there isn't a whimsical cottage or a magical fountain, but a crude, ramshackle shelter built from rough-hewn logs and branches, barely more than a lean-to. A thin plume of smoke rises from a makeshift fire pit in front of it, where a few embers still glow, and standing over a large, recently felled tree trunk is a figure. It's a person, a human being. Relief, so overwhelming it threatens to buckle your knees, washes over you. This isn't a trap. This is real. This is salvation. You open your mouth to call out, a desperate cry for help forming on your parched lips, but then you stop. Something feels off. The figure is hunched over the tree trunk, their back to you, steadily hammering something with a crude, stone-headed tool. Their clothes are ragged, patched together from various animal hides and worn fabrics, almost blending with the forest floor. Their hair, long and matted, hangs in tangles, obscuring their face. There's an unnatural stillness to their movements, a methodical, almost robotic rhythm to their work. And then you see it, on the ground beside them, arranged in neat, unsettling piles, are small, carved figures, dolls. They are roughly carved from wood, some adorned with bits of moss or bone, their features rudimentary but distinct, and each one, you realise with a cold shudder, is carved in the likeness of a person. Some are tall, some short, some with long hair, some with bald heads. They are all slightly different, yet all possess a vacant, unsettling quality. The figure finishes a particularly intricate carving, then carefully places it with the others. They pick up another piece of raw wood, and the rhythmic tap-tap-tap begins again. There's no joyous singing, no shouted greetings, no sign of life beyond the monotonous work. It's just them, the fire, and the growing collection of unsettling effigies. This unusual or little-known detail about long-term isolation in remote wilderness is the psychological toll it takes on the human mind. People, when deprived of social interaction and exposed to extreme stress, can develop a variety of coping mechanisms, ranging from talking to themselves to creating imaginary companions or, as in this unsettling case, engaging in obsessive, repetitive behaviours. You are witnessing the brutal reality of a mind pushed to its absolute limits by the wilderness. You feel a new kind of dread settling in. This isn't the rescue you envisioned. This isn't someone who will lead you back to civilization. This is someone who has been claimed by the forest, warped by its relentless isolation and pressures. They are clearly alive, but perhaps not entirely sane. Your desperate hope begins to curdle into a chilling uncertainty. Historians still debate whether the hermit figures and wild men of ancient folklore often described as living deep in the woods, were based on real individuals who had chosen or been forced into extreme isolation, or if they were purely mythological figures embodying the untamed, unpredictable aspects of nature. Here, you are seeing a living, breathing testament to that ancient debate, a human relic of the forest's profound, transformative power. You retreat slowly, carefully, backing away from the clearing, trying not to make a sound. The desire to call out for help is still there, a desperate urge, but it's now tempered by a profound sense of unease. What would this person do if they saw you? Would they be a saviour? Or something far worse? Another danger in this endless labyrinth. Their single-minded focus on the unsettling carving suggests a detachment from normal human interaction, a worldview utterly shaped by their prolonged solitude. You find yourself moving back into the deeper, more familiar gloom of the forest. The silence, which had felt so menacing, now feels like a safer, more predictable companion than the chilling presence you just encountered. The wood smoke's scent, once so comforting, now carries a faint, unsettling undertone of something primal and unhinged. You're left with a grim realization. Even human company in this forest can be a terrifying prospect. As you move away, the tap, tap, tap fades into the background, becoming just another indistinct sound of the forest. You're back to the oppressive green, the dim light, the gnawing hunger, and the searing thirst. But now, added to your fears, is the chilling knowledge of what prolonged exposure to this place can do to a human mind. It's a fate that feels almost as terrifying as being consumed by a predator or swallowed by a bog. You stumble onward, your mind racing, trying to process the encounter. What were those dolls for? Were they memorials, trophies, or something more sinister? The questions swirl in your exhausted brain, offering no comfort, only deepening the unsettling mystery of this enchanted, terrifying wilderness. You can't trust anything here, not even the promise of human companionship. The forest has twisted everything, turning potential salvation into another chilling warning. You are truly, utterly alone. The image of the solitary figure, meticulously carving the unsettling dolls, is seared into your memory. It's a chilling testament to the psychological toll this forest exacts. A grim warning of what prolonged isolation can do to a human mind. You're now not just battling the elements and unseen predators. You're fighting to keep your own sanity intact. A desperate struggle against the creeping despair that threatens to overwhelm you as you push onward. The oppressive twilight of the forest seems to deepen, the emerald hues giving way to shades of slate and charcoal. The air grows noticeably colder, carrying a damp, earthy scent that hints at unseen moisture. Your thirst is a raw, burning agony, making your tongue feel thick and unresponsive. You lick your cracked lips, but it offers no relief, only a faint, metallic taste that makes your stomach churn. Dehydration is setting in with a vengeance, blurring your vision and making every thought feel like pushing through thick mud. You stumble more frequently now, your legs giving out beneath you without warning. Your muscles ache with a deep, pervasive fatigue that has seeped into your bones. You try to focus on putting one foot in front of the other, but even that simple act requires immense concentration. Your mind, starved and exhausted, begins to play tricks on you. You see shimmering puddles just beyond the next thicket, only for them to vanish when you get closer, revealed as mere reflections of the dim light on a wet leaf. It's a cruel, relentless torment, designed to chip away at your last vestiges of hope. The sounds of the forest, once menacing, now seem to blend into a confusing, distorted hum. Distant rustles, the creak of ancient branches, the faint, unidentifiable calls of unseen creatures, they all swirl together in your ears, making it impossible to distinguish genuine threats from the whispers of your own mind. You glance over your shoulder constantly, convinced that something is following you, just beyond the edge of your peripheral vision. Suddenly, a faint, almost imperceptible gleam catches your eye. It's not the ethereal glow of the bioluminescent moss, nor the deceptive sparkle of spun sugar. This is a cold, hard glint, like metal. Your weary mind, desperate for any concrete sign of the outside world, focuses on it with a laser-like intensity. You stumble towards it, pushing through a dense thicket of thorny bushes, heedless of the scrapes and tears they inflict upon your skin. As you draw closer, the glint resolves into a distinct shape. It's a rusted piece of metal, half buried in the damp earth. You fall to your knees, scraping away the mud and leaves with trembling fingers. It's a sign, an undeniable, irrefutable sign of civilization. It's a fragment of a wheel, old and corroded, but undeniably man-made. A wagon wheel. A surge of desperate hope, potent enough to bring tears to your eyes, washes over you. A wagon wheel that means a path, a road, a way out. You scramble to your feet, scanning the immediate area, and then you see it, faint but distinct. Stretching away into the gloom, two parallel ruts in the earth, almost completely overgrown with moss and ferns, but unmistakably the track of an ancient road. This common historical fact about ancient trade routes and pathways through dense, untouched wilderness is how quickly nature reclaims them. Even major Roman roads, left untended, would eventually be swallowed by forests within centuries, their presence often only discernible by subtle changes in vegetation or barely visible depressions in the earth. You are standing on a ghost of a road, a testament to long-forgotten journeys. You follow the faint road, your pace quickening despite your aching body. The forest here is slightly different, less dense, as if the ancient path still exerts a subtle influence, discouraging the encroaching vegetation. The trees are still massive, but they seem to stand a little further apart, allowing a sliver more of the strange light to filter down. The air feels fractionally lighter, the silence a little less oppressive. As you follow the faint ruts, you begin to see more signs, faint carvings on the tree trunks, almost indistinguishable from the natural patterns of the bark, but upon closer inspection, they reveal rudimentary symbols or initials. You also find scattered, weathered fragments of pottery, bits of old leather, and even a single, tarnished coin, its ancient markings almost completely worn away by time and the elements. Each find is a small, precious victory, a confirmation that you are, finally, on a path that leads somewhere. The road, however, is not without its own challenges. It's uneven, riddled with sinkholes hidden beneath thick layers of moss, and often completely obscured by fallen logs and dense thickets that force you to detour. You stumble and fall repeatedly, but the knowledge that you are on a definite, human-made path, however ancient, keeps you pushing forward. Suddenly, the road takes a sharp turn around a massive, overgrown mound. As you round the bend, you see it. Not a town, not a village, but a structure, an old, crumbling stone wall, partially swallowed by the forest, its grey stones cloaked in thick moss and ivy. It's a ruin, clearly ancient, but undeniably man-made. Your heart leaps. A ruin means history. It means human presence. It means there might be something, anything, within its confines that could offer shelter, or perhaps even a clue to finding your way out. You push through the last of the undergrowth, emerging into a small, overgrown courtyard. The air here is heavy with the scent of damp stone and ancient decay. The ruin is extensive, the remains of what must have been a sizable structure, perhaps a forgotten castle or an old monastery. Broken archways loom against the dim sky, and crumbling walls form a ghostly labyrinth of passages and collapsed rooms. Trees have grown up within its confines, their roots cracking the ancient stones, their branches forming a natural, living roof. As you explore the ruins, carefully picking your way over rubble and fallen stones, you notice a peculiar detail, embedded in some of the surviving walls, partially obscured by moss, are crude, almost childlike drawings, figures of people, of animals, and of strange, almost monstrous creatures. They seem to tell a story, a narrative lost to time, but their presence speaks of human hands, of lives once lived here. This unusual or little-known detail about ancient ruins in remote, forested areas is their tendency to become ecological hotspots, attracting unique flora and fauna that thrive in the microclimates created by the stone structures. Sometimes, these ruins even become nesting grounds for rare bird species or dens for reclusive mammals, making them vibrant, if eerie, pockets of life within the wider wilderness. You feel a strange sense of shared space with unknown creatures, a silent acknowledgement of their prior claim. You stumble into what appears to have been a central hall, its roof long since collapsed. Leaving it open to the sky, in the centre of the hall, stands a single, remarkably preserved stone altar or pedestal. It's covered in more carvings, intricate and geometric, unlike the crude drawings on the walls, and resting on its surface, almost perfectly preserved despite the centuries, is a small, leather-bound book. Your hands tremble as you reach for it. A book in this ancient, forgotten place. You pick it up, carefully, as if it might crumble to dust in your hands. The leather is dry and cracked, but the pages inside, though yellowed and brittle, are miraculously intact. You open it, your eyes scanning the faded script. It's written in an old, almost indecipherable hand, in a language you can't quite place. It's not English, nor any modern European language you recognise, but the illustrations are stunning. Intricate drawings of plants, animals, and what appear to be maps. A profound sense of awe, mixed with a renewed, desperate hope, washes over you. This book, this relic from a forgotten civilization, might hold the key. It might contain knowledge, maps, anything that could guide you out of this nightmare. You cradle it in your arms, a fragile beacon of hope in the vast, terrifying wilderness. Historians still debate whether certain ancient texts, particularly those found in isolated or forgotten places, were merely records of local knowledge, or if they contained esoteric wisdom, or even prophecies. The feeling here is that this book holds more than just a historical account. It holds a whisper of the very secrets of this forest, as the last rays of light dim, casting long, eerie shadows across the crumbling stones. You realize you have found a sanctuary, however temporary, and a treasure that might lead you home. You settle down, pressing the book to your chest, your exhausted mind trying to decipher the secrets held within its ancient pages. A final, desperate gamble against the encroaching darkness and the relentless embrace of the forest. The ancient, leather-bound book feels strangely warm in your trembling hands, a tangible link to a past long swallowed by the forest. Its presence in this crumbling ruin is a stark anomaly, a beacon of human intellect in a place that seems determined to erase all traces of it, as darkness truly settles. The faint, ethereal glow of unseen moss illuminates the intricate illustrations on the book's brittle pages, casting dancing shadows across the crumbling stone walls around you. You pore over the pages, your eyes straining to decipher the faded script and intricate drawings. The language is utterly alien, a swirling collection of unfamiliar characters. But the maps are different. They are not conventional cartography. No compass roses or neatly drawn coastlines. Instead, they are organic, flowing sketches of natural features, distinctively shaped trees, unusual rock formations, winding water patterns. Some areas are highlighted with peculiar symbols, others marked with small, almost childlike drawings of animals or people. It's a map, but a map of a living, breathing landscape, drawn by someone who intimately knew its secrets. You trace the lines with a hesitant finger, your mind trying to superimpose these ancient markings onto the chaotic, disorienting reality of the forest you've experienced. Could this be a guide? A way through the labyrinth? The hope that surges through you is almost overwhelming, a powerful counter to the relentless despair that has been your companion. This isn't just a book, it's a whisper from the past, a forgotten knowledge waiting to be rediscovered. As you study the maps, one particular sequence of symbols catches your eye. It appears multiple times, always associated with what looks like a distinct, winding river or path below the symbols. A faint illustration depicts a stylized human figure standing beside a large, strangely shaped tree, pointing towards a distant light. Could it be a Route A landmark? The possibility electrifies you, breathing new life into your weary body. Your thirst, however, is now an unbearable torment. Your throat is raw, and your mouth feels like cotton. The ancient knowledge contained within the book is tantalizing, but utterly useless if your body gives out. You remember a grim piece of common historical fact about wilderness explorers even with maps and knowledge. Extreme dehydration and exposure were often insurmountable obstacles, leading to cognitive impairment and fatal errors in judgment. You realize, with chilling clarity, that this book is a treasure, but you are too close to total collapse to properly utilize it. You closed the book, carefully, and tuck it securely inside your jacket, a precious, fragile burden. You have to find water. Now, the ruins offer no obvious source, no ancient well or cistern that hasn't crumbled into dust. You remember the bog, the stagnant, metallic water, and the chilling hand. You push the image away. There has to be another way. Driven by a primal urge, you force yourself to move, stumbling out of the crumbling hall and back into the overgrown courtyard. The night is deep, and the forest outside the ruins is a wall of inky blackness. You feel your way along the outer wall of the ruin, hoping to find a hidden spring, a trickling seep. Anything. Your fingers brush against damp moss, cold stone, and then a smooth, slick surface. You press your hand against it. It's not stone, not moss. A leaf, a colossal leaf, wider than your torso, cupped like a giant bowl, and within its natural hollow, glistening faintly in the near absolute darkness, is a small pool of clear liquid, dew, or rain, or something else. You press your finger into it, and it feels cool, fresh. You bring it to your lips. It tastes faintly of earth and something subtly sweet, but it's water, real water. You cup your hands, gathering the precious liquid from the giant leaf, and bring it to your lips, gulping it down greedily. It's not much, barely a few mouthfuls, but it's enough to coat your parched throat, to send a jolt of cool relief through your system. You gather more, drinking slowly, savouring each precious drop. It's a meagre amount, but it's enough to alleviate the immediate, burning agony of dehydration. It's a miracle, a small act of kindness from a forest that has been nothing but cruel. Feeling a tiny surge of renewed strength, you consider your next move. Sleep is still a perilous luxury. You have the book, a potential map, but the night is deep, and the dangers of the forest are amplified in the darkness. You decide to stay within the relative safety of the ruins, at least until the first hint of dawn. The thick, crumbling walls offer some protection, and the knowledge of the ancient road just outside is a comforting thought. You find a slightly less exposed corner within the hall, nestled against a massive, moss-covered stone. You pull the book out again, holding it close, a silent promise of escape. Your eyes, though weary, continue to scan the pages, trying to commit the key symbols and illustrations to memory. The maps depict winding, almost labyrinthine paths, often crossing what appear to be natural barriers or strange landmarks. One sequence seems to indicate passage through a narrow crevice, another through a grove of particularly gnarled trees. It's not a straightforward path, it's a puzzle, a riddle encoded in ancient symbols. Historians still debate whether the concept of fairy paths or spirit trails in many ancient cultures, often described as invisible or only visible to certain individuals, were actual forgotten pathways known to indigenous peoples, or if they were purely mythological constructs in this place. The maps in the book feel like a tangible manifestation of such a concept, a hidden geography that only the initiated can read. You are attempting to become one of the initiated, to unlock the forest's ancient, secret language. As you trace a particularly complex section of the map, you notice a recurring symbol, a stylized eye, often accompanied by what looks like a series of concentric circles. It appears on several different paths, almost as if it's a warning, or perhaps a signpost. What could it mean? A place of vigilance, a point of no return? The mysteries of the book are as profound as the mysteries of the forest itself. The cold continues to seep into your bones, and your body aches with the accumulated weariness of days without proper rest or sustenance. Despite the small amount of water, your hunger remains a hollow, persistent ache. You can feel your strength ebbing, your reserves running dangerously low. This truly is your breaking point, your last stand against the forest's relentless embrace. The book represents your final, desperate gamble, your only hope of not becoming another lost soul among the ancient bones and the unsettling dolls. You close your eyes again, clutching the book. The faint light of the moss-covered walls seems to ebb and flow, making the shadows dance. You imagine the ancient inhabitants of this ruin, poring over these very maps, perhaps seeking safe passage, or perhaps guarding a secret. You are now part of their story, a modern traveller lost in an ancient, enchanted nightmare, relying on the whispers of a forgotten age to guide your way. The hum of the forest outside seems to grow louder, a deep resonant thrum that vibrates through the very stones of the ruin, as if the forest itself is watching, waiting for your next move. The ancient book, clutched tightly to your chest, feels like a fragile shield against the encroaching despair. Its faded maps and enigmatic symbols represent your last, desperate hope, a flicker of light in the overwhelming darkness. You spend the rest of the night, what little remains of it, poring over its pages in the eerie, moss-lit gloom of the ruin. Your exhausted mind struggles to make sense of the alien script, but the visual cues, the patterns, the recurring symbols, they slowly begin to form a chaotic, yet strangely intuitive understanding. You identify a sequence of landmarks, a winding path marked by crescent moons and a distinctive, spiral-shaped tree. It's a route, you realise, not necessarily the shortest, but perhaps the safest, leading away from the known dangers of the gingerbread house and the bone-filled bog. As the first faint streaks of grey light filter through the gaping holes in the ruin's roof, signalling the arrival of a new, equally brutal day, you rise. Your body screams in protest, every muscle aching, every joint stiff, but a renewed sense of purpose, fueled by the ancient map, propels you forward. You take one last, long drink from the colossal leaf, savouring the cool, sweet water, before venturing out of the crumbling walls and back onto the ancient, overgrown road. The air is thick with the scent of damp earth and the subtle, lingering perfume of unknown blossoms. The forest, in the deceptive light of dawn, seems almost benign, its emerald canopy glowing with a fresh, almost vibrant intensity. But you know better now. You've seen its true face, the deceptive lures, the hidden predators, the psychological torment. You are no longer charmed by its beauty. You are wary of its every whisper. You follow the ancient road, relying less on instinct and more on the cryptic directions of the book. The path leads you through dense thickets where the trees interlace overhead, forming natural tunnels. You notice the unusual or little-known detail that some of the mosses clinging to the tree trunks pulse with a faint, almost imperceptible warmth, a stark contrast to the general chill of the morning. It's an odd sensation, as if the forest itself is radiating a subtle, living energy, perhaps a byproduct of its peculiar, enchanted biology. You remember the bioluminescent moss in your first shelter and wonder if this warmth is a benign feature or another subtle deception. The map guides you through a grove of particularly ancient, gnarled trees, their branches twisting into grotesque, almost skeletal forms. You pass by strange rock formations that resemble petrified giants, their craggy faces gazing silently into the emerald gloom. The forest floor is still a treacherous carpet of roots and hidden depressions, but you navigate it with a new-found focus, your eyes constantly scanning for the landmarks depicted in the book. Suddenly, you hear it, the low guttural growl, closer this time, accompanied by the snapping of twigs, the same sound you heard before. The predator. Your heart leaps into your throat, and you freeze, every nerve ending screaming. You remember its glowing eyes, its massive form, its terrible teeth. You glance frantically at the book in your hand, desperate for an answer, a hidden escape route. The map shows a distinct sequence of symbols just ahead, 3 concentric circles, followed by a stylized eye. It's the same symbol you saw repeatedly in the book, associated with the fairy paths. You remember your earlier thought a warning, or a signpost. Now, you realize it might be a place of particular danger, or perhaps a point where the path becomes almost imperceptible to the uninitiated, as the growl intensifies, echoing through the stillness. You see a faint shimmer in the air just ahead, precisely where the map indicates the concentric circles. It's a distortion, a ripple in the very fabric of the forest, like heat haze but colder, more intense. It almost looks like the air itself is bending, blurring the trees beyond it. This common historical fact about optical illusions in nature, such as mirages caused by temperature inversions or light refraction through mist, often played a significant role in confusing lost travellers and contributing to folklore about enchanted vales or hidden realms. Here, however, it feels far more deliberate, a gateway or a barrier woven by the forest itself, without another thought, driven by sheer terror and the cryptic guidance of the ancient map. You push through the shimmering distortion. The air feels thick and resistant, like pushing through viscous water. For a moment, you feel utterly disoriented, as if your senses are being stretched and pulled. The sounds of the growling creature are muffled, distant, then gone. When you emerge on the other side, the world has shifted again. The light is different, less emerald, more diffused, a softer, almost silver hue. The trees, though still ancient and colossal, seem to stand further apart, their branches reaching upwards, allowing glimpses of a pale, unfamiliar sky. The undergrowth is less dense, and the air feels cleaner, lighter. The oppressive hum of the forest is gone, replaced by a gentle breeze that rustles the leaves with a soft, sighing sound. You're still in a forest, but it's a different forest. It's still wild, untamed, but the sense of immediate, malevolent danger has receded. The air smells of pine and damp earth, familiar, comforting scents. You can hear the distant, faint sound of flowing water, a stream. You stumble forward, your eyes fixed on the new landscape, hardly daring to believe it. This is it. This is what the map promised, a way out. You follow the sound of the water, pushing through sparse undergrowth, and then you see it. A clear, babbling brook, its water sparkling in the soft, silver light. You fall to your knees beside it, plunging your hands into the cool, clear water, and drink. It's the purest, sweetest water you've ever tasted, washing away the bitter residue of fear and desperation. You splash it on your face, letting it cleanse the grime and exhaustion, feeling a profound, almost spiritual renewal. As you drink, you notice something nestled among the rocks beside the stream, a small, smoothly polished stone, Unlike any you've seen in the forest, it's grey, flecked with iridescent green, and surprisingly warm to the touch. It feels significant. A token, a reminder. You pick it up, turning it over in your hand. A small, tangible piece of this unbelievable journey. You rise, feeling a strength you haven't had in days. The path ahead is still unclear, but the immediate, crushing weight of despair has lifted. You still have the book, a silent companion that has guided you through the impossible. You look back, but the shimmering distortion has vanished, replaced by an unbroken wall of ancient, gnarled trees. The fairy tale forest, with all its brutal beauty and terrifying secrets, is behind you, its embrace finally broken. You step through an invisible gateway, out of the perilous fairy tale forest and into a world that felt, at once, more familiar and utterly alien in its sudden normalcy. The soft silver light filtering through the canopy, so different from the oppressive emerald gloom behind you, felt like a balm to your raw eyes. The gentle murmur of the stream, the rustle of wind through pine needles, it was a calming symphony, a soothing balm to your weary soul. The path ahead was still unclear, but at least it no longer held insidious promises or deadly traps. You continue to walk along the stream, feeling the refreshing coolness of the water seeping through your worn shoes. The tall, straight pines, unlike the twisted, moss-draped giants of the fairy tale forest, offered a sense of comforting solidity. The air was crisp, clean, allowing you to take deeper breaths, as if expelling all the pent-up tension of the past days. The ground beneath your feet was now a soft carpet of pine needles and smooth pebbles, far easier to navigate than the thick moss and gnarled roots that had tripped you constantly. You could feel your strength slowly returning, though you were still incredibly weak. Your empty stomach still growled its protest. But at least the burning thirst was gone. A warm, real sunbeam pierced the canopy, landing gently on your shoulder. It wasn't the ethereal, green-tinged light you had grown accustomed to. This was genuine sunlight. You looked up, catching a glimpse of a clear blue sky through the gaps in the foliage. It felt surreal, almost too good to be true. After days spent in perpetual twilight, the simple act of seeing the sky, of feeling the sun's warmth, was a profound gift you had once taken for granted. You continued to follow the winding stream. It meandered through gentle inclines, occasionally opening into sparse clearings where more sunlight could reach the forest floor. Wildflowers, with their familiar vibrant colours, bloomed along the banks, a stark contrast to the strange, glowing flora you had encountered. The birdsong was clear and melodious, not the unsettling, unidentifiable calls from the deeper woods, but familiar chirps and trills from your own world. Your senses were slowly recalibrating, like an instrument brought back into tune. Despite the apparent safety, a part of you couldn't fully shed the heightened vigilance. The fairy tale forest had taught you a harsh lesson. Beauty doesn't always equate to safety, and familiarity can be a cruel illusion. You still clutched the ancient book, your talisman, feeling its weight in your hand. It was a testament to your journey, a tangible proof that the strange and terrifying existed, but also that ancient knowledge could guide you through it. As you walked further, you began to notice more signs of human presence, albeit still faint. A broken piece of rope snagged on a branch, a faint boot print in the damp earth, or even the distant, faint smell of wood smoke carried on the breeze. Each small sign was a fresh surge of hope, propelling you onward. These weren't like the deceptive gingerbread or the unsettling dolls. These were honest, undeniable proofs of an organised world, a community you desperately yearned to rejoin. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of weary steps, you heard it. A different sound altogether, not the stream, not the birds, but the distant echo of a human voice. Then a dog barked, and then the faint rumble of vehicles, a sound you had once resented for its noise, now felt like the most beautiful symphony in the world. You stepped out of the tree line, your eyes squinting against the brighter daylight. Before you lay a small, dusty dirt road, and beyond it, a larger paved road with cars passing by. Beside the dirt road was an old wooden fence and a lush green field where cows grazed peacefully. You were back in your world. Tears streamed down your face, hot and salty. They were tears of relief, of exhaustion, and of a raw, overwhelming truth you had survived. You had walked through hell and returned. The fairy tale forest would forever be a scar on your psyche, a stark reminder of what lurks beneath shimmering beauty. But you had made it through. You stood there, gasping for breath, feeling the warm breeze on your face and the familiar sounds of civilization washing over you. The ancient book was still clutched in your hand, a physical testament to the unbelievable things you had just experienced. It wasn't just a map, it was a story, a reminder that the world held vast mysteries, terrifying beauty, and brutal challenges, and you had walked through that story and found your way back. You glanced back at the tree line from which you had emerged. There was no shimmering distortion, no invisible gateway anymore, just an unbroken wall of dense, green trees, looking chillingly normal, as if they had never held you captive in a living nightmare. The forest seemed to have closed its door, refusing any lingering trace of your horrifying adventure. You turned, taking heavy, resolute steps towards the road. Each step was an affirmation of your return. You were no longer lost in the fairy tale forest. You were a survivor, carrying an unbelievable tale, and that tale, however brutal, had changed you forever. And now, good night, and have sweet dream, and